Hey,
Yo,
how's it going?
good. How's Matt?
Not bad.
What are we doing today?
What's that?
What are we doing today?
Today we are talking about rehab secrets.
I know.
Talking about how to get these rehabs done.
Do
So
you have like
we should
a
have quite a
certain thing
few.
where you decide to wholesale something rather than rehab it? Do you have like a rule of thumb at all?
I don't really do many hotels.
Rehab and everything.
Yeah. Back in like 09, 10, 11, I was doing a lot of like I wouldn't say they were hotels, but they weren't full blown remodels either. They were like in between that and $10,000, $15,000 rehabs, and that crushed back then because I was buying houses super cheap and making them look really nice with the simple stuff, and they were selling really fast because I was pricing them cheap too.
So even if something's dated, you're still doing a rehab on it now? Like if it's in decent shape but dated, you're still kind of rehabbing everything?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Well, just because the market's changed a little bit, like people have higher expectations, during the downturn, when the foreclosure issues were really bad, people were more just happy to get a clean, nice place to live. They didn't have to have all the bells and whistles.
Yeah.
Why? What are you doing?
Oh, I just got a couple. I haven't been doing that many rehabs lately. It's just because the supply is so low that if we're getting, if we can make 10, 15 grand and right away, we're only going to make 25, 30 on a flip. So,
Yeah, you're better off wholesaling it.
and I don't have the teams in place like you do either.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm switching more to um, wholesaling right now. We bought a ton of houses during the COVID deal, and I still have a stockpile of those we're working through. So we're doing a lot of wholesaling right now, so I don't pass up on any deals, but also just to give my rehab teams a chance to catch up.
You getting any multis lately?
I haven't really gotten any. Hey, Robbie. I haven't really done any multis lately, to come to think of it. I mean, we just had a couple under contract, but didn't the numbers didn't end up working on them, so we passed. So, what about you?
Oh, I got a couple closed a couple weeks ago, and we got another one that I like that I'll probably keep because it's real close to my house. But we'll see if I don't know. We haven't heard back from the guy. We were basically at his number,
Hmm.
but
Um,
it's a hot market. I mean that the multi market is insane right now here.
hmm Everywhere. Um, one thing I'm working on right now, I'm finally finishing up my Sherwin-Williams building, and they're going to be moving in the next few days. And I did a little. This is how simple this stuff is, but I had Amanda get a list of every single person in the state of Iowa that owned a building that Sherwin-Williams leased from them. So we pulled that list. I made 8 phone calls yesterday, and one person that answered the phone said, "Yeah, that's what we buy. I want more information." And he's like, "I got cash. We can close." So it took 8 phone calls to find a buyer. So I'm hoping he already sent me an email. I'm hoping to put that together, but I'm going to net like 700 grand on that deal.
Jeez. And what was it? It was like a big building that you finished? What? Explain it to me.
Yeah, it was a 12,000 square foot building that Sherwin-Williams is leasing from me. I had to do a pretty big build out on it, but they're leasing it from me to run an operation, their flooring operation out of there.
They're just
So
skimming it from you.
yeah, but here's the thing when you have a Sherwin-Williams as a tenant, the lease is gold. and it's a
Yeah.
brand new lease. Like they haven't moved in yet. So it's like, when you buy a building that's got, a 10-year lease, but there's only 3 years left on it, like, well, that's what if they move out? This is a 10-year brand new lease, and you get a 6 cap out of Sherwin-Williams. So
Yeah.
it's a $1.3 million sale.
Wow. Yeah, the banks got like that for refinance too, huh?
Mm-hmm. No, I'm sure if somebody uses it, finances it, then they would get, very good interest rate on it. So maybe we'll wait another minute or two, see if anybody else jumps in here. I thought there was going to be more people on, but I think it was short notice. This is a makeup from last week. Last week I was in Ohio for that DM family mastermind, so I couldn't jump on Wednesday. So we did a little makeup session for this. See if anybody else jumps in.
How was the mastermind, Matt?
It was good. It was good. Those are all high level players, and or most of them are, and it's always good to get together with people. We would work for half a day, and then we would go. We went and played golf, went bowling one day. It was fun. It's just fun to be around like players work, that are doing deals and making things happen. So I like it for that.
Nice.
Yeah. So it was fun, and we stayed at this cool little, like, it's called the Woodlands. It was super cool little cabin like area, like with these cool cabins you stay in and stuff. So it wasn't like a hotel, but it was all, this pond was there, and you drive in on these gravel roads, and there's cabins tucked in there, and everybody had a cabin and all that. It was pretty neat. I'd love to take Trina back there and just go spend a weekend there sometime,
Nice.
Well, cool. I'm just gonna. By the way, I'm gonna use this video for some other stuff down the road, I think. So I'm gonna I'm gonna go through a lot of detail today. There's gonna be a lot to learn, but we're gonna cover a lot of stuff. So anyway, this is the title of this. This session is Rehab Secrets. If you guys have any questions, feel free to jump in and ask. And I'm just going to get started with, right out of the gate with what type of houses, we need to focus on. I'm going to change this view. Let's see here. See if I can change this around. Okay, we'll leave it like that. So anyway, so here's what we're going to do. We're talking about rehab secrets. So first thing I want to talk through, and we'll have a lot of people, coming back and watching this video later. So I want to make sure I cover even the most basic things. So right out of the gate, you got to start when you're rehabbing houses, especially when you first get started, you got to make sure you stay with the right houses. This is the biggest thing that I see a lot of new investors kind of make a mistake on, especially right now. Everybody watches HGTV and they see these enormous remodels with, coming in and taking out walls and moving everything around. And they think that that's how you rehab a house. And the reality is those are the worst ones to do. Those are the ones that are the hardest. They take the most out of time. There's the most amount of risk involved. And there's the usually you don't make as much money on those. And so so one of the things that I focused on in the very beginning was the easy houses, the stuff that you should be doing. The reason you don't see those houses on the TV shows is because it's not exciting enough, and there wouldn't be anything to really talk about, and there's no big issues to discuss, and there's not tragedy that happens. So so one of the things that I make sure, some points that I want to make sure everybody needs to make sure they avoid is, you always want to avoid foundation issues. Like, foundations can cause tons and tons of extra cost. Sometimes it's hard to fix. Sometimes you can't fix it, like without almost rebuilding the whole house. So avoid houses that have big foundation problems. In some parts of the country, there's no basements, and then other parts of the countries, every house has a basement. I'm in the Midwest. There's tons of basements here. So what happens is, a lot of times on the foundation, where the freeze line is, where the frost line goes to, sometimes you'll see that little crack, horizontal crack in the foundation. If it's not bad, it's easy to fix. But if it's really bad, I've had them like really angled and like the wall's going to blast out and fall down. Those are just really, really expensive. Takes a lot of time, but just not fun stuff. And you don't get any value out of fixing it. When you're thinking rehab, always be thinking, if I put $1 in, I get $3 to $5 back for spending that dollar. And so with a foundation problem, you don't fix that and then, well, I just increased the value of the house. No, because it's supposed to be fixed. It's supposed to be good. Otherwise, people won't buy it. The other thing is don't do big additions. Don't, especially in the beginning. Some of these parts of the country in these really expensive areas, people try to get creative to do deals and to make numbers work, and they add additions. And I'm not saying that that's not profitable and you can't do that. I'm saying if you're in the beginning stages of your investing career, those are risky moves. They're really expensive, takes a lot of time, and a lot of stuff can go wrong. So avoid adding additions to make the numbers work. Avoid burnouts. I call a burnout house that had caught on fire. There's a lot of problems with those types of houses. There's stuff that you can't see or don't know about. If a lot of people try to, wholesale burnout houses. That's what I would do with them. If you find a contractor that likes to do those, but don't definitely keep those for yourself, because those are really expensive to fix and you probably end up losing money on them. Here's another little something super simple, but a lot of people overlook this. Avoid buying houses in the beginning when you're brand new. Avoid buying houses that have had the utilities shut off for over a year. And the reason why is a lot of the municipalities now, if the utilities have been off for over a year, they're making you do all brand new inspections on the house. They make you come out and have a plumber check all the plumbing. You have HVAC people have to check all the gas piping. If there's leaks, you got to replace it. The electrical company has to come out and do all the electrical. And what they do, the city makes you do this, and then now you have to upgrade all that stuff to new code. So it might be fine, but because utilities are off and you now have to pull a permit, now they can force you to bring everything up to 2020 code, and that can be really, really expensive. You probably won't make money on those deals if you do that. So a lot of people don't know that. So one of the things that you need to make sure you do before you buy a house, if you're going to keep it and rehab it, make sure you call the utility company and make sure that the utilities haven't been off for over 6 months or a year. Now, I say 6 months or a year because every city's different. Some cities, if it's been off over 6 months, they make you upgrade and pull permits to turn on. Some of them it's a year. You need to find out what your local area does. But if once you know that, if the utilities can be off, that's fine. But if they've only been off for a month or a couple of months and you're not past that threshold where you have to pull new permits and bring it up to code, then you're fine. But you just have to call. I have a VA do this for us. We just have a VA call and make sure no new permits are needed. And we know that going into each deal. Again, super simple stuff, but it can cost you a fortune if you don't do it right. And then the next thing is avoid gutting houses to the studs. Like those are very, very long rehabs. I've done a lot of them over the years. They're not a lot of fun to do. They look amazing when they're done, but it's not a lot of fun. So, and they cost a lot and it takes really a long time. So now that we've talked about what you shouldn't do, let's talk about the houses that you should do. I like to stick to the simple stuff. I like to stick to houses that when you buy a house, that the trees are overgrown, the bushes are overgrown, the grass is overgrown, there's grass growing out of the gutters. There's the exterior of the house is dirty, then you go inside and it smells terrible. But the walls are in decent shape and the carpet can look terrible and it can smell really bad. That's okay, because we're going to replace that, or the flooring in general. But everything is, really smells really bad. It's a little outdated, but structurally it's good. Those are the houses you want, because you're going to go in there, you're going to pull all the carpet and get rid of that. You can put all new flooring in. You can repaint the whole place. That's super, super simple stuff. But it's stuff that it's very quick to do and very cheap to do in relative to other things you can do to the house. So be thinking about that stuff. Like you want to be thinking about, again, you'll hear me say this all the time. You want to do things on a rehab where you put $1 in and you get $3 to $5 back. So if you do something to a house that costs you $1,000 to do that thing, it's going to increase the value of the house by $3,000. Okay, you got to make sure that, like some people, they'll go into, they'll buy starter homes in, starter home neighborhoods, and they'll go in and they'll put granite countertops in, but none of the other houses in that neighborhood have granite countertops. And they think that because I put granite in there, now the house is worth more. That's absolutely not the case. The house still has to comp out. Somebody might like granite a lot better. I know that if I was buying a $100,000 house and it had granite, that'd be amazing that I wouldn't have to do that part. But it's not going to outvalue the house and bring up the value. So focus on the things that that really you put a little money in and you get a lot back. So again, I love flooring and paint. I have a saying I always say: carpet and paint, brain surgery it ain't. Those are the quickest, easiest things to do. The other things we do is we do light switches, outlets, and new cover plates, new lights. Like we use these dome lights. We like those, or ceiling fans. And then put new handles on things, like doorknob handles. A lot of times they're super cheap, but you got some really old beat up ones on there. You can change one out really fast. So you repaint everything, you change out your outlet switches, the plates, and your lights and your ceiling fans. You throw new doorknobs on, you paint the kitchen cabinets, you throw new door hardware on the kitchen cabinets, new hinges, new handles for that stuff. You throw new faucets in there if they're all beat up and old, then you spend time cleaning the house. This is one thing you can't miss. So people forget, for some reason people forget about exteriors. So they go in and they redo the interior and that looks great, but then outside doesn't look great. Well, somebody decides if they're going to buy the house when they pull up within the first 10 seconds, so they decide in their brain subconsciously if they like the house. So you want to make sure that you're cutting the grass. You want to make sure you're trimming the bushes, throwing some mulch in, and doing some easy landscaping. None of that costs much money. You can get mulch done on a house for, depending on where you live, and, if mulch is appropriate. Not every landscaping design needs mulch, but I mean, we do it a lot in the Midwest. You can do mulch for $200-300 a lot of times. It doesn't take much time. They throw down the fabric, they line it out, throw it in there. It looks awesome. Trimming up the bushes, you spend $100 on something like that. Trimming up tree branches, and then take and power wash the whole exterior of the house. That can cost, varying on if it's a 2-story house, how big is it, but a few $100 you can power wash a house and make it look amazing. Clean out the gutters, make sure your downspouts are on. All of that stuff is super simple. $1,000 to $2,000 on an exterior, and you can dramatically change the look of it. The other thing is, and sometimes on these older homes, you have your window sills, and they might have, if they've been wrapped with aluminum, then it might need new caulking. Or if it hasn't been wrapped and it's just wood casing around the window, a lot of times that peels off. So you need to make sure you scrape and paint and repaint those wood, or wrap it with new aluminum. That's not very expensive. You can get somebody to wrap an aluminum window for $50, sometimes less. But those little things make all the difference in the world, and they're cheap. You do that thing and you get that $3 to $5 back. So always focus on the cosmetic stuff when you're getting started. Paint and super simple paint, carpet, lights, fixtures, outlet switches, faucets, paint cabinets, new door hardware, new hinges, mini blinds on the windows. All that stuff is super simple, super fast, and you're in and out. Those are the things I focused on in the very beginning. I went through the whole, downturn with the recession, doing just that type of scope of work. Most of my rehabs back then were 10 to 15 grand. And I was listing and selling those houses. There wasn't a single one that lasted over 30 days. They always sold fast. I bought them cheap. I listed them below 5% below what it was worth. If I comped it out and it was worth 100 grand, instead of doing 99.9, I would do 94.9. The house would sell in, even during the downturn, during the time when the biggest recession since the Depression, I was still selling those houses in under 30 days. So if you price it right and you get them cheap and you do those things, it's literally the best way to make money flipping houses in the beginning. Super, super simple stuff. Now, one main thing to also have a really good punch list. I think all you guys have my punch list. Make sure you use the punch list. The hardest part for a contractor to finish is the last 5% of the house. I don't know why contractors' brains work to the point where they can get 95% done and struggle so hard to get the last 5%, but it's terrible. So you have to have a good punch list to make sure that they finish and they do it right. And you got to hold them to it. So a lot of times contractors get to the last 5% and they want you to pay them out, for everything except for 5%. And it doesn't work that way, because the last 5% takes them just as long to finish sometimes than the first 95%. So you want to make sure it hurts bad enough that you hold back enough money for that last 5% so that they actually make it a priority to get over there and finish it right. So that's kind of what I focused on in the beginning for doing rehabs. And since I've done thousands of rehabs, the ones I've made the most money on are not the ones I gutted to the studs and rebuilt the whole house. Those look amazing. The befores and afters look awesome. But where all the money is in the simple rehabs. If you just stick to that, you'll make money, and real estate will be a lot more fun. You'll get paid a lot faster, and you'll make more money. So let's talk about when you're first getting started. Do you do the work yourself, or do you hire it out? Now, this is kind of a tricky question, because I'm very big on, I'm very, very big on not doing a lot of work yourself, hiring out, leveraging other people's time. But in the beginning, I had zero experience rehabbing houses. 15 years ago, I'll tell you guys a story. So 2 or 3 years ago, I was walking through the airport here in the Quad Cities where I live. And one of the contractors I hired, one of the first guys I ever hired, was there working on the airport. They were doing some remodeling, and I ran into him. I hadn't seen him in a decade. And so I sat there and talked to him for a minute, and he's like, "Matt, I still got to tell you," he goes, "we still laugh about you. When I came over to he came and helped me with my second or third rehab. And when I called him, I had already replaced the carpet before I had done any painting or any other stuff to the house. Literally the first thing this is how little I knew back then. This is why you guys have so much hope, and why you can do amazing rehabs and make a lot of money flipping houses. If I can do it, you guys can do it, because when I started 15 years ago, I didn't even know the proper order. I literally bought a house that needed completely cleaned out and basically gutted to the studs, and I replaced the carpet right out of the gate. First thing I did. So of course, all that carpet after it was put in, had to be all retorn back out again, because it was ruined by the time we got the rest of the construction done with the house. So that should inspire you guys to know that you guys can do this stuff if I can do it. Now, I've done thousands of rehabs since then. I know a lot more about it, and I learned by doing, and luckily I have a lot of repetition. But I will say this: when you don't know the process of rehabbing a house, contractors will pick up on that, and they will take advantage of you if they can. Most of them will. So it's, when I ask you the question, do you rehab the house yourself in the beginning, or do you hire it out? I really like the fact that I did a few rehabs myself, because I learned a lot. My parents had never owned their own home. We always lived in rental homes. My dad always said, don't ever buy a house, always rent, because if something breaks, you don't have to fix it. So guess what? We never fixed anything. We never painted. When I bought my first property, I actually had never run a paint roller, never had done it. So I literally didn't know what to buy. I had to call a friend of mine who just bought a house for him to live in, and I know he repainted it. So I'm like, man, what do I buy? He's like, well, you need this roller and this other thing that you attach it to. He, kind of gave me a couple ideas. And so I went in and did the rehab on this house, and I learned a lot in the process, and I learned how fast something could be done. I was always hustling because I didn't have much time to work on it. I was working a full-time job plus doing real estate on the side. I was still trying to find the next house, rehab the one I already bought, find a tenant, manage. I mean, it was tough. So I learned to go really fast. And I learned every trick in the book in order to get stuff done really fast. And the cool part was, within a couple of years, I was teaching veteran contractors with 20 plus years experience how to do things faster and better because I learned it through necessity. So I like the fact that if you want to do one or two yourself, you'll probably learn a lot, probably save you a lot of frustration down the road. But I definitely wouldn't make it a habit to always rehab your houses. Once you learn the process, you need to probably hand that off. That's what I do in my company. I haven't picked up I take that back. I bought a lake house 2 years ago, and it wasn't a hard rehab at all. It was just literally carpet and paint. I didn't lay the flooring. I hired that out. But me and Trina did, and Tyler did the paint work on it. Trina did most of the paint. But other than that, I haven't done any work on a house in a really, really long time because I do too many projects at once, and we've always got 50, 60 rehabs going at any given time. So it's impossible. So I have to have a team to do that. But in the beginning, me doing the work taught me lessons that probably saved me maybe even millions of dollars. So if you want to do a couple projects yourself, probably worth it. Otherwise, get it pushed on to another GC. Now, I want to talk about, once you hire your first GC, you need to follow some specific rules. If you don't learn anything else from what I teach you today, you got to learn what I'm getting ready to talk about. This is an absolute must. First of all, you must have a written scope of work for what you want to do to the house. So many people rush through this part and they don't do a scope of work, and then they hire a contractor and it's a disaster. So think about it. So let's say you hire you have this project, you hire a contractor, you walk three, let's just use this analogy because this is what I used to see all the time before I started doing written scopes of work. I would walk two or three different contractors through a house, and I would just walk with them through the house. Like, this is what you don't do, by the way. I would walk through with them, and I'm okay, I need to patch that hole. Okay, replace this trim. Okay, let's paint the cabinets. Let's throw new countertops on. The contractor's just writing in his notebook as we go, and I'm pointing out things on what I want to do. Okay, great. Take that, everything I just pointed out. Now go get me a bid. And they would get a bid. And I'd find another contractor because I got to have 3 bids. So I get another contractor. I walk them through. I do the same process, and then I go through the process to the third. Guess what would happen? They're writing down. They got a notebook. They're writing down what I'm telling them to do. I walk these 3 people through at a different point in time, and they submit me a bid. One guy bids $10,000. One guy bids $15,000. One guy bids $20,000. So which bid do you think I took? Well, I took the $10,000. Then you get started and you get going on the house, and you're getting to work, and you walk through it, as the construction's happening, let's say a few days later, a week later, and you're like, hey man, when are you replacing the countertops? Matt, my bid didn't include countertops. I'm only just leaving the ones that are there. Like, no. I walked you through here and I said replace countertops. Nope, you didn't. I took notes, and I don't have that on my notes. My bid did not include countertops. So guess what? This happens with, in every room you walk in, something got missed, and there's some miscommunication. So you know what really happened is you had a bid for 10,000, one for 15, and one for 20. And the one for 20 was probably the best bid because that guy included every single thing that you wanted done, and it had a much wider scope of work and a better finished product. But because you didn't hand a written scope of work out, you got the cheapest bid that included hardly anything. That happened to me. That's how I learned how to do scopes of work. Now, here's the thing is you're always moving really fast. Like, I never have enough time, right? So, people skip the scope of work part because it takes time. you will probably spend 1 to 2 hours in a house making super detailed notes in every room to create a scope of work. And if you're not doing that, you will not have a good end result. It all starts with the scope of work. The scope of work is one of the most important pieces. Then when you hand a scope of work to a contractor and you're walking them through, now they're not having to take notes on what to do. They're taking maybe specific notes off of your scope of work on how they're going to do whatever to help price it. But they have the scope of work. So now when you hand that scope of work to 3 different contractors and you get 3 different bids, the bids are all the same scope of work and you know it's consistent. So so you have to take the time to walk the house and do actual scope of work that you hand the contractors. It's the only way. And then they sign it at the end, and you have, you have a written agreement. So that's step 1. Now, the next thing, here's your daily routine on these rehabs. This is really important. So first of all, you must go to the house during a rehab project. You must go to the house every single day. I hear a lot of people say, nope, you only need to go there once a week. Well, nope, you only have to go there, once every 2 weeks. Nope, I only have to go there once a month. I'm just telling you right now, I've done thousands of rehab projects. You must go every single day. If you don't, the contractor will not be there and the contractor will not get the project done in the same amount of time that they could had you been there. Let me tell you how contractors work. Most contractors are out there to take your money. So they know they're going to pick up on a routine that you're doing. And if they know that you're going to show up on Mondays and Fridays, they will be there Mondays and Fridays. But guess what they're doing Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday? They're working on somebody else's house and going and getting startup money for doing other bids and other jobs. You are teaching that contractor how to treat you. Okay. So if you're there once a week, they're going to be there once a week. And then when you call them and text them on the other days, they're going to feed you a line of BS on what they're doing. So you must be there every day. You want to get this project done and gone? Be there every day. Now, second thing, text the contractor before you get there that you're going to be there. Get up in the morning, get your day laid out, know what you do. Okay, I'm going to go to check on the rehab. I'm going to be there at 2:00 this afternoon. So you need to text your contractor, hey, I just want to let you know I'll be at the house after lunch. Make sure you're there. I want to meet you there to walk the house. An absolute must. So that way, if you get there, if you don't do that step and you get to the house and the main guy isn't there, guess what? He might have guys there. Something's wrong. Something isn't getting done. You got to have a couple questions. You got to know what's going on. You walk up to one of the other guys. Hey, man, is this countertop over here? Is this getting replaced? Like, I just want to, well, I don't know, man. I just work. You got to talk to the boss. I don't know. I just work here. So basically you just wasted your time by going and showing up. You did the right thing. You got there every day, but you showed up and didn't let the main guy know. So now he's not there. So now when you spot a problem, now it can't get resolved. Now you got to jump on a phone call, which are absolute time sucks. You got to jump on a phone call with the guy and get him on the phone if he answers while you're there to figure out what the heck's going on. So make sure make sure he knows what time you're going to be there and meet him there at that time. Never tell the contractor, here's the next step. Never tell the contractor that you're going on a vacation or that you're going to be out of town. That if you do that, they will not be at your rehab while you're gone. Some people are like, I just got to do I got to make sure I communicate, make sure I tell the contractor I'm not going to be here this week. No. In fact, I at one point in time, I took on 200 rehab projects in my company at the same time. We had a ton to do. I was running 200 projects by myself. It would take 3 pages to 4 pages in a yellow pad with an address written on each one. I was running that many projects. Now, what's the chances that you can get to a rehab project if you got 200 addresses to hit in one day. It's impossible. But do you think I told a single contractor at any of those houses that I wasn't going to make it? Absolutely not. I would text every one of those guys and I would say, hey, I just want to let you know I'll be by later. And then they knew I was going to be there. And then at some point at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, they're telling me, hey, man, I haven't seen you yet, and we're getting ready to wrap things up. Are you coming by? Oh, man, I got tied up. I couldn't make it today. I'll catch you tomorrow. The reason I did that is I knew that if I would have texted them and say, hey, man, I'm tied up, I won't be there today, they're packing up their tools. They're going to the next job. So I never told them I wouldn't be there. I always made them set the expectation that I will be there later. So never tell them you're going to be gone. Always tell them you'll be there. Okay. There's going to be days, it's impossible. There's no way you're going to get there. Still tell them, hey, I'm going to try to be there X amount of time. Now, when you get to the house, okay, so now you've gotten to the house and you meet the main person. Now, this isn't BS time. This isn't just walk in and look around with your hands in your pockets and check and just stare at the stuff. Like, you must ask good questions. You need to have a routine. I do the same routine every time I get to the house. If there's 2 stories, I walk the downstairs, complete perimeter walk of what's going on inside the house. And I'm pointing at everything I see. Hey, man, I know this was on your scope of work. What's your plan there? Yep, got it, Matt. No problem. We know. Hey, man, what about this over here? Are you fixing this piece of trim? I don't remember talking about that, but yeah, I'll make sure that's fixed. Okay, good. Just want to make sure we don't miss it. And you're pointing at stuff. Hey, when's this happen? When's that happen? Hey, there's that piece of glass in the window's cracked. Are you fixing that? Yeah, we got that. We're pulling that, sending it to so-and-so. So make sure you do that in the downstairs. Then you go upstairs if there's an upstairs, and you walk the whole perimeter with the contractor next to you, pointing and asking questions. Okay, that's how you run a project. Now, then you go outside and you walk the exterior of the house. If there's a garage, you walk that. You want to make sure you hit every single thing. You know what the scope of work is because you've got a written scope. You can have that with you and take that and make notes as you go. And then one of the things that you need to make sure you do as you're doing this process, super, super important, you must do this, you must take pictures. It doesn't matter that you go every day. If you take pictures of the progress each day, work will get completed and will get done. And you have documentation. If there won't ever, by the way, if you do this right, there won't almost never be a dispute with a contractor. But if you don't have any pictures and don't have any documentation and things go bad with that contractor, you're screwed. You don't have any documentation, nothing. It's his word versus you, and you're going to lose because the judge is going to side with the guy that's broke, that's the contractor. So always make sure you have pictures of everything. You're going to take pictures every single day that you're there, okay? Because guess what? Now you can show progress or lack of progress. Either way, the guy knows he's got pictures. He knows what I've been doing. So then the next thing you're going to do after you've gotten all your pictures for the house. Now, by the way, guys, you need some kind of a system to, log the pictures. You can put them in Dropbox and date it every day. Super simple stuff. And you don't have to take 100 pictures, but, make sure you document the work that's been done. So then at the end of that conversation, now what I do is I talk about, okay, I'm here every day. I'm coming every day. I'm going to walk this house with you every day, and I'm taking pictures every day. So guess what? Let's talk about what you're going to have tomorrow when I get here. What are you going to have done? So then that's the next thing the last thing I do is I set the expectation for the next day. Okay, so I'll be back here tomorrow. Let's talk about what you're going to have done by the time I get back here. Well, Matt, we're going to have all the kitchen cabinets installed by then. We're going to have the countertops on, the sink in, the faucet in, and that's all going to be good to go. Okay, great. So you set the expectation. Then when you get there tomorrow, if that's not done, hey, man, we talked yesterday. What happened? Like you were supposed to have the cabinets done, and they're not. Well, yeah, but man, I had a guy, he got sick and he had to go home. That's not my problem. Why didn't you have somebody else in here? You got to have ready labor all the time. Like you got to add more people. So so you got to have some of those conversations. Albert, I am going to mute you real quick, bud. Okay. So those steps will save your project. Those steps will get the project done on time. Those steps will get your budget done within budget, and you will live a much easier life. Now, here's the thing. Now, this contractor is either going to love you or hate you after this is done. He could hate you because he's like, man, I can't pull one over on this guy. He's actually going to watch what I'm doing. I can't go, start 14 other jobs and take a whole bunch of down payment money and not work on his. I better do my thing. I better not take on any more work from him because he's going to make me do it right. That's one thing that could happen. Or secondly, you're going to have a contractor that loves the detail that you do and respects you enough to get it done and follow the rules that you've laid out. So I found that it weeds out a lot of people fast, and you get to just the people that remove complexity from your life. If you have a contractor that adds complexity to your life and it's a nightmare situation, every time you hire them, don't hire them anymore. It's not worth it. Okay, so let's talk about a couple other things. Let's talk about change orders. A change order is when you've got a written scope of work and you didn't do a good enough job on doing the scope of work right, and you did it in 10 minutes instead of 2 hours, and you missed something. And now you didn't give that to the contractor. And so now you're like, hey man, what about, these countertops? Are you going to replace? Well, no, we talked about it. That wasn't on the scope of work. Okay, well, now that's a change order. Now you want it done. You decide that you want it done. And it could be something that you just change your mind on. Like, for example, the shower had a decent plastic surround in it, and you decided, mid-rehab that you want to go with a tile surround. And that's, that adds work and it adds time to the job, but you've decided that's what you want to do. Now, change orders are a contractor's dream. They go to sleep at night praying and hoping that you've missed something so they could change order you to death. I've had jobs get changed order to the tens of thousands of dollars. It's a nightmare. So here's what I've learned over the years when you have a change order. One, now the contractor is going to screw you on a change order. They're going to charge you 10 times what it really costs because they think they got you. They're like, well, I'm already in here. He wants it done. So, here's my price, and it's 10 times higher, even though he's already at the job. It's not like if you hired somebody from outside, they got to drive there, they got to unload their tools, they got to set all that stuff up and do it. He's already there. It should be cheaper, but it never works that way. They sit around at home hoping that you forgot something so they can change order and take your money. Here's what you do. Dave Bader's laughing right now because he knows that's actually true. I mean, that's what happens. So what happens is this: when you get a change order, guess what? They say, oh, hey, I want to tile this shower surround. Well, that'll be $1,500. Just say, okay, great. That's your bid, right? Because I'm going to go get 3 more bids from 3 other contractors to come in here. Whoa. No, since I'm already here, I can actually do it cheaper. Okay, well, what price do you think you can get it to? Well, I can probably do it for $1,000. Why don't we just do it for $300? You're already here. You don't have to unload any tools. I'll get the materials here for you, and you can just put it up. Put the surround in. That's how you handle a change order. You don't do what they do on TV, and the guy gives a price, and you don't get any other bids, and you just accept the price. Okay, you negotiate the price. And if you don't like the price, tell the guy, listen, you don't have to do that part. I'm going to bring another contractor in here to work on this house while you're in here. And I'm going to have some more bids and try to get this done a little cheaper. They don't want that. Contractors' worst nightmare is another contractor walking in on their job site because they're afraid that guy's going to see something that they've done wrong. Or sometimes they're afraid, well, I'm going to have tools come up missing, or I got to pack things up. I got to clean up better at night. So they don't really want you to bring anybody else, so the price will immediately drop. That's how you handle a change order. If you don't do it that way, you'll pay 5 to 10 times the price. So make sure you get 3 bids. So now the last The last thing that I hit on briefly, but I want to talk about it again, is you got to make sure the very last thing that you do, you've got to make sure that you really work that punch list. Okay. So many people get soft, and the job is clearly not done. And by the way, you guys, a house that's 95% rehabbed will never sell. Okay. You can't get close and then put it up for sale and just say, I'll just lower the price a little bit, it'll sell. It won't. A house that is 5% done, 5% away from being completed will never sell. So you can't get soft on the last 5%. You have to stick to your guns. Make sure they finish it right. And again, a contractor, they almost take as much time. They almost take as much time to do the last 5% as they do the first 50 to 75% of the house. It's crazy. They can't finish. Most of them can't. They struggle. So if you hold back, if you say, hey, if the contractor's like, hey man, I'm broke and I got to pay my bills and I need, you can see that I've got 95% done. Go ahead and advance me everything except for the last 5%. And I promise, Matt, I'll finish this house this weekend. I'll work extra. I'll work late at night. I'll work Saturday and Sunday, and I'll get this house done for you. No, they won't. If you give them everything but the last 5%, that will stretch out. They won't show up for the next 2 weeks, and so it won't happen. So you've got to hold tight to your guns. Hey man, I told you in the beginning when we first talked, I said we're going to buy 25% pay, checkpoints. So at 25%, you get 25, and the next 50, and then 75, and 100. I know you're 95%, but that wasn't our agreement. Our agreement was, when you're done and you check off this punch list, you get the last, 25%. I feel bad for you that you have money problems right now and you can't pay your bills, but that wasn't our agreement. I'm not trying to do anything outside of what we already agreed on. Work late, get more people, and make it happen. Or if you can't finish, I have to get somebody else. That's the conversation that you have to have. And it's tough that you have to have that conversation, but that weeds a lot of people out of your life very quickly that add complexity to the whole process. If you do those things, you will finish rehabs fast, and you will be much happier in life. You will remove the complexity of the rehabs, and you'll actually make real money. And it gets exciting. It's fun that way. It's terrible with stretched out rehabs. Does anybody have any questions on anything I've covered? Any questions on anything? I know a couple of you guys jumped in a little bit later, missed the stuff, but this stuff will be recorded, so you guys will have access to all this. I love, we're doing a lot of wholesaling right now, but we also always have a lot of rehabs. Like I said, I don't know if I have around 50 rehabs going right now, 45, 50, something in that range. And so we always have the rehabs going. As the market shifts, we'd probably do a little more wholesaling, but I'll always be flipping houses and doing rehabs. So, I've gotten a lot of experience doing this for a really long time, done a lot of rehabs, and that's the best advice I can give you guys on which houses to focus on and how to get them actually done on time and on budget. Any questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I was late. I didn't see this until it was late. Yeah.
That's right.
Do you still stamp that, what is it called? Lien waiver stamp from Amazon on their checks every time so that they don't ever see you? Yes. So every single time you do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's, the lien waiver stamp, it doesn't always hold up in court. Like but it does keep the contractor thinking. And so, they don't necessarily know that, but if they sign that check, they at least it gets them to know that, hey, you mean business, and that if they can't file a lien on the property. So yeah, we still do that.
Cool.
Every single check that goes out gets that stamp.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions from anybody? I know some of you guys jumped in there late, but Ryan, you got anything? Not to call you out. Robbie, you good? So that's basically all I had for today on the whole construction piece, which houses to go after, and the basic rundown of what how to make sure you run your rehab. That 7-step list I had you guys go to, where you go to the house every day and you text the contract before you get there. That's some of the best advice I could probably give you guys. I mean, literally, that's the one thing. I've had contractors over the years, tell me like, Matt, we know that you're going to come every day and take pictures. So we always make sure we work really fast to make sure, like I told my guys, man, Matt took pictures yesterday. If he comes today and takes pictures and that's not a lot different, then we're going to be in trouble. So you train these people to think on what you want done. And it's amazing what happens. But if you don't show up for a week or 2 weeks or a month, it's a disaster. So I think there's a couple people that had some couple questions. Yes, Albert, there will be a replay. You guys will get that. So you'll be able to get the whole thing. So don't worry about that. It's okay if you're late. And most people watch this later anyway. Not everybody can just jump on live, but I always like some people on live so you can ask questions. So, okay, cool.
I have one more if nobody has any.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know how strict the rules are in Iowa for COVID, but how many people can you have in a building at once, like rehabbing?
We don't have any rules with that, mainly because in Iowa, the rules are a little different. So, I'm sure some states do have some of that stuff, but we haven't had any of that. Construction's considered something that's, I can't think of the term right now, but construction.
Essential?
What's that?
Essential?
Yes, an essential business. Correct. Yep. So we haven't had any of those issues.
But you can only have 3 people at once in the house. It's a nightmare. I hope it kind of levels out soon.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, most of my crews, we always have maybe more than 3, maybe 4 or 5, depending on what other trades are in the house at the same time. But just knowing that's the rules, make sure you're aware of that. So maybe you have the exterior people, come and do exterior while you got people doing the interior, and then you can still get it done on time, So, but typically most of my crews are 3 to 5 guys.
Mm-hmm.
So. Any other questions before I jump off of here? Everybody good? You guys learn a lot?
Yeah. This is helpful because I'm going to do a webinar tomorrow. So you talked about some things that I completely forgot about. So it'll be cool.
All right, guys. Well, hey, if there's no other questions, I'm going to go ahead and jump off. And I'll catch you guys the next time.
Thanks. Bye.
All right. See you guys.
Thank you, Matt.
Yep. Bye.